Good morning, my lovely Virgo. Real quick before we start, I just need to acknowledge something. The fact that you're here, the fact that you clicked on this, the fact that you're still standing after everything you've been through, that says everything about who you are. I don't know your full story, but I know you've survived things that could have broken you, and you're still here, still searching, still open. That takes strength most people don't have. So whether you've been here before or this is your first time, I want you to know I see that strength, I respect it, and I'm here to mirror back to you what you might not be seeing clearly yet. Now, let's talk about what you already know but maybe need to hear out loud. You already know what happened. You don't need me to tell you. You don't need anyone to explain it to you. You were there. You saw it. You felt it. The moment when someone you trusted, someone you showed up for, someone you believed in, they chose someone else. Someone who didn't deserve it, someone who wasn't even real with them. A snake, that's what they chose. That's what they picked over you. And you had a choice in that moment. You could have stayed, you could have fought for your place, you could have made yourself smaller, quieter, more accommodating, hoping they'd see what they were losing, but you didn't. You left, and that was everything. Stay with me, because what I'm sensing right now, what's coming through so clearly, you're still processing what that meant, what it took, what it revealed about you. And maybe part of you is still wondering if you made the right choice. Maybe part of you is still hurting from the fact that you were even put in that position in the first place. But here's what I need you to understand. The moment you walked away, the moment you chose yourself over trying to convince someone of your value, you reclaimed something they couldn't take from you, something they never actually had access to. Your power. Have you been feeling this? This quiet strength underneath the hurt? Let me know in the comments if this is resonating, because here's what really happened in that situation. They thought they were pushing you to the side. They thought they were making a choice that diminished you, that reduced you, that put you in second place. But what they actually did was show you exactly who they were. They showed you that they couldn't recognize real when it was standing right in front of them. They showed you that they were more attracted to performance than presence, more drawn to manipulation than authenticity, more comfortable with lies than truth. They showed you that the version of love they were offering, it wasn't actually love at all. It was convenience. It was ego. It was them choosing whatever made them feel good in the moment without considering the cost. And when you saw that, when you really saw it, you made a different choice, not the choice to compete, not the choice to prove yourself, not the choice to fight for someone who clearly couldn't see your worth. You chose to leave. And that leaving, that wasn't weakness. That was the most powerful thing you could have done. Does this feel true? Drop a comment if you're recognizing this, because I keep sensing there's a part of you that's still angry at them for being so blind, angry at the situation for unfolding the way it did, angry at yourself for not seeing the signs sooner. And that anger, it's valid. You have every right to feel it, every right to sit with it, every right to let it move through you. But underneath that anger, there's something else, something clearer, something stronger. There's this knowing, this deep, unshakable knowing that you made the right choice, that walking away was the only option that honored who you actually are, that staying would have cost you something you couldn't afford to lose. Your self-respect, because here's the thing about staying in situations where you're being treated as less than, it doesn't just affect that one relationship. It affects how you see yourself. It affects what you believe you deserve. It affects every choice you make moving forward. And you weren't willing to pay that price. You weren't willing to sacrifice your sense of self just to keep someone who couldn't appreciate you anyway. And that takes courage. Real courage. The kind of courage that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. The kind that doesn't get applause or recognition or validation. The kind that's just quiet certainty that you deserve better, even when better isn't guaranteed. Have you been recognizing your own strength in this? Let me know in the comments. Because what I keep picking up on is you're not the same person who entered that situation. You've changed, you've evolved, you've learned things about yourself that you couldn't have learned any other way. You've learned that you can survive being chosen second and still choose yourself first. You've learned that you can be hurt by someone and still walk away with your dignity intact. You've learned that love isn't supposed to feel like competition, like proving yourself, like constantly wondering if you're enough. Real love. And it doesn't require you to fight for basic respect. Real love. And it doesn't put you in positions where you're comparing yourself to people who aren't even operating from truth. Real love. It sees you clearly and chooses you consistently. And what they were offering, it wasn't that so you left. And in leaving, you taught yourself something invaluable. You taught yourself that you can walk away from anything that doesn't honor you, even when it hurts, even when part of you wants to stay, even when you're not sure what's on the other side. That's power. Real power. Not the kind that controls others, not the kind that forces outcomes, but the kind that protects your peace, honors your worth, and refuses to accept less than genuine. Does this resonate with what you've been experiencing? Comment below and let me know, because there's something else I need to tell you about this situation. The snake they chose, and that choice is going to reveal itself. Not because karma's coming for them, not because they're going to be punished, but because snakes can't hide what they are forever. Eventually, the mask slips. Eventually, the performance cracks. Eventually, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. And when that happens, when they see clearly what they actually chose, there's a probability they're going to realize what they lost. They're going to recognize that the person they pushed aside, the person they didn't value, the person they replaced with someone fake, that person was real. That person was solid. That person was offering something genuine, and they threw it away. But here's what's important. By the time they realize that, it's not going to matter to you the way it might have before. Because you're not sitting around waiting for their recognition. You're not hoping they'll come back with apologies and explanations. You've already moved forward. You've already started rebuilding. You've already begun the process of creating a life that doesn't include them, doesn't need them, doesn't depend on them seeing your value. You've already proven to yourself that you can survive their choice and still thrive. And that changes everything. Have you been noticing this shift in yourself, this decreasing need for their validation? Let me know in the comments. Because what I keep sensing is you're in a transformation period right now. A period where you're shedding old beliefs about what you're supposed to tolerate, what you're supposed to accept, what you're supposed to be grateful for. You're shedding the version of yourself that stayed in situations that hurt you just to avoid being alone. You're shedding the pattern of giving more chances to people who never deserved the first one. You're shedding the habit of making yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. And in place of all that, you're building something new. You're building boundaries that actually protect you. You're building standards that actually serve you. You're building a sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on external validation. And that building, it's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. It requires you to sit with uncertainty, with loneliness, with the fear that maybe choosing yourself means being alone. But what you're discovering slowly, gradually, one day at a time, is that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone. Being alone is better than competing for attention you should already have. Being alone is better than accepting crumbs from someone who's giving full meals to people who don't even value them. You'd rather be alone and whole than partnered and diminished. And that realization, that's freedom. Does this feel true for you? Drop a comment if this is landing, because I want to talk about what comes next. Not what's going to happen, not what's guaranteed, not some prediction about when things will get better, but what's available to you right now in this present moment as you navigate this transition. What's available is space. Space to figure out who you are without someone else's opinion shaping your identity. Space to discover what you actually want without trying to fit into someone else's version of what you should want. Space to heal without having to perform healing, without having to prove you're okay, without having to rush through the process to make anyone else comfortable. And in that space, you get to rebuild, not back to who you were before, but into who you're becoming. Someone who knows their worth isn't up for debate. Someone who recognizes red flags early and trusts themselves enough to walk away. Someone who would rather be respected alone than disrespected in company. Someone who understands that being pushed aside isn't a reflection of their value. It's a reflection of someone else's inability to recognize it. And that person, the one you're becoming, she's powerful, she's clear, she's unshakable, not because nothing affects her, but because she knows how to choose herself even when it hurts. Have you been feeling this emerging strength? Let me know in the comments, because here's what I keep seeing. This situation, as painful as it was, as unfair as it felt, as much as it hurt to be replaced by someone who wasn't even real, it was necessary. Not because you deserved it, not because you needed to learn some lesson through suffering, but because it showed you something you needed to see. It showed you what happens when you give your energy to people who don't value it. It showed you what it feels like to be in a dynamic where your worth is constantly being questioned. It showed you that some people will choose performance over substance every single time. And once you see that, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to accepting those dynamics. You can't go back to hoping people will change. You can't go back to waiting for someone to finally see what's been there all along. You just move differently. You choose differently. You protect yourself differently. You show up differently. And the people who can't meet you there, they fall away. Not because you're pushing them away, not because you're being harsh or unforgiving, but because you're no longer available for dynamics that require you to shrink. And that unavailability, that's your power showing up. That's you saying, I'd rather have nothing than something that costs me my peace. That's you choosing yourself even when it means standing alone. And standing alone, it doesn't feel weak anymore, does it? It feels like strength. It feels like clarity. It feels like finally, finally honoring yourself the way you've been honoring everyone else. Does this resonate? Comment below and tell me what's shifting for you, because I want you to know something. You're not going to look back on this moment with regret. You're not going to wish you had stayed, fought harder, made yourself smaller to fit into a space that wasn't meant for you. You're going to look back and recognize this as the moment everything changed. The moment you stopped accepting less, the moment you walked away from fake for the last time, the moment you chose your own peace over someone else's comfort. And that moment, it's not just about what you left behind, it's about what you made space for. Space for real connections, space for genuine love, space for people who see your value without you having to perform it, space for you to just be without justification, without competition, without constantly proving you're worthy of basic respect. And that space, it's sacred, it's yours, and you protected it by leaving. So yeah, they pushed you to the side for a snake. And yeah, that hurt, but you showed them your power. Not by fighting, not by competing, not by trying to prove they made a mistake, but by walking away, by choosing yourself, by refusing to stay in a situation that didn't honor you. And that's everything. I don't sell futures, I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now. Take care.